Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're getting into part 2 of Jason Aaron's Heroes Reborn. And with going into this, I feel like there's this underlining question with Hyperion facing the Hulk, who clearly knows Hyperion's secret identity. But how though? Well, we're gonna talk about it for a little bit. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch us bills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so with jumping into the second issue of Heroes Reborn, we immediately jump into the initial arrival of Galactus on Earth. And when this starts off, we get this narration from Hyperion, who's more or less thinking to himself about his new origin, which we had seen before was an origin that was manufactured by Phil Coulson. But with Hyperion thinking back on his origin, with him landing on Earth on a ship many years ago, which is pretty much the origin of Superman, but with thinking back on his origin, he doesn't remember all the details. But he considers things like seeing the ship proof that it happened, and also proof that whoever his parents were, that they loved him dearly. But also as part of his origin, one of the parts that he does remember is that a cosmic mass murderer has consumed his home world. So when Galactus and the Silver Surfer arrive here, Hyperion thinks of his parents, and he hopes that wherever they are, that they're watching him and they're proud of who he's become. But as soon as the Surfer and Galactus arrive, the Surfer tells Galactus that something is heading in at a speed faster than his own, and Hyperion just flies through the head of Galactus, taking him out, one shot, just like that. And when this happens, I feel like I gotta say it again, cause do not take Heroes Reborn and take this to y'all's verses, because your nerfed Galactus versus your buffed Hyperion, this is just something that we're seeing for the sake of the story. Don't get mad, it's just entertainment. Because I know it's a few people I see in the comments of videos like this one, to where you're like, man, I'm just tired of seeing Galactus being used as either a punching bag or just something to show how powerful someone else is. But I just want to let you know, it's been like that as long as I can remember, even going back to 1984 Secret Wars issue 1, when Galactus charged at the Beyonder and he got slapped to sleep. And there's been dozens of times after where Galactus has gotten similar treatment, but don't feel bad because there's plenty others catching smoke from Hyperion in this issue. But after this, we then jump forward to present day, to where we see for Hyperion, his alternate identity, Mark Milton, is a school teacher. And it's very consistent with what we'd seen from Jason Aaron's Avengers issue 18. Back when we first saw the Squadron Supreme turn into Marvel's Justice League. And looking back, I feel like at the time when Jason Aaron had just dropped this in there, and if I remember correctly, it was only for 2 or 3 issues. But I feel like when he did this, he was just thinking in his mind the next thing that Marvel gives me, I'm going hard. I'm pushing these guys to the top of the totem pole. Rubs hands like Birdman. But when we jump back in with the school teacher, Mark Milton, and he's grading one of his students' papers, which is supposed to be a response on the greatest mystery of World War II, and this kid's response in the paper is what happened to Captain America. And Hyperion just gives the girl a C+, telling her she needs to separate what's real from what's myth. And with seeing that, I can't wait to see little Margaret's response once the world finds out that Blade found Captain America. I imagine she's gonna go back to Mr. Milton and be like, hey, just pass me for the whole semester, I'm done. But then it's also here where we see a few of Hyperion's thoughts kind of wander off again, and when he does, he's considering Zarda's suggestion for the Squadron Supremes to pretty much have their own watchtower, or version of the watchtower, and it seems like it'll be made possible by the way of Zarda's technology from her island, Utopia Isle, which is practically Themyscira. But while Hyperion's here, he gets a call from Reed Richards on a supersonic emergency frequency, and when Hyperion responds, he meets Dr. Richards at S.H.I.E.L.D. Labs, and when he gets there, Reed Richards is just Reed Richards. There's no Fantastic Four, and Dr. Richards is just a smart guy that works for S.H.I.E.L.D. And when Ben Grimm talks about clobbering time, he talking about watching a fight. But with Reed calling Hyperion here, he lets him know that a number of the villains which they sent to the negative zone, they've escaped, and it's likely that they slipped out when Victor Von Doom was put in. And when Reed expresses the situation, he tells Hyperion how the negative zone is a highly unstable antimatter universe, which I believe he means to the extent of it being difficult to just place anyone there and lock them in without them being able to find a way back, which makes sense with a nihilist skipping his way through every now and then. But with Reed giving Hyperion the update about how a bunch of villains slipped out when Doom got put in, Hyperion now has to go find all of these escaped villains and drag them back to the negative zone. And it's kind of crazy when we see this and we run down the list of these quote-unquote villains, because first when we see Gladiator and the Imperial Guard, not only have they been turned into Brood, but Hyperion also catches them at Cape Canaveral in an attempt to steal a space shuttle and fly back to their throne world. But after stopping them, Hyperion then runs into Mr. Beyonder, who immediately feels like a mixture between the Beyonder and the race of Beyonders all mixed up into one, but then on top of that kind of shaken together and called like a type of Mixia-Spitalik, especially with Hyperion mentioning that this guy manifests six-dimensional cartoons, which for Mixia-Spitalik which for the other guy over at DC, that's more of a fifth dimension connection. But also with Hyperion catching him, Mr. Beyonder mentions, or he more or less claims, that he had caused the prison break out of boredom, which is almost as nuts as him turning the people in Arkansas into flying sharks. But then after catching him, Hyperion hears a call from Peter Parker, who is effectively Hyperion's Jimmy Olsen, with him being a journalist / photographer at the Daily Bugle. But also in Peter's case, like, he has no powers, and he's often mentioned to be very clumsy and uncoordinated, and in the words of Hyperion, like, Peter thinks he's his friend. But what's crazy is when Peter calls for Hyperion to stop these bugs, it's actually the bottled hive of Annihilus, which is a huge insult to the actual size of the army of Annihilus. But right after this, Peter, his journalist sense goes off, and he points out to Hyperion that he also has to deal with Ultron. And this Ultron happens to be a mashup of Hank Pym, who at one point was a good Christian, decent husband, which I feel like was another joke from Mephisto or whoever made this world, with that being Hank Pym's background. But at some point, this version of Hank Pym, he got merged with Ultron, who now collectively has a Pym particle heart, and he's able to shift size, while also, according to Peter Parker's assumption, this Ultron was also going to enlarge the Hive of Annihilation, who Hyperion had just froze to death like seconds ago, along with this world's version of General Annihilus. But with facing this version of Ultron, Hyperion takes him out in seconds. And as we run through these, there are a number of others that Hyperion had taken down that we didn't see, like the Winter Soldier along with the Widow Guard, who likely is just this world's version of the Winter Guard, but possibly led by the Winter Soldier and Black Widow. And at this point, he's also taken down the Undersea Terror King, Namor, who from that name alone, I can't imagine that he's too different from the Namor that we already know. But then also Hyperion mentions that he's taken down Mutant Force, which seems to be this world's version of the X-Men. But with mentioning all these guys, he tells Peter Parker that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s on their way to clean up and collect what's left of Ultron, and then he leaves Peter telling him that he has one more villain left to get. And from there, he just leaves Peter, who's about to get bit by something that's gonna make an interesting headline. But after this, we then go to Hyperion's classroom, and when we get there, the Hulk, he's like trying to talk to the students and see if any of them realize like what's been changed, but with the way that he's talking, like nothing is making sense, because everything's coming out backwards or mixed up, so he can't really get across to the students what he's trying to say. But then not long after we see him here, Hyperion then shows up, and he just knocks the Hulk out of the classroom, asking him like how did he know his secret identity. And when Hyperion says that, it kind of has me thinking, because back when we first saw the Squadron Supreme of America, before Heroes Reborn, during War of Realms, T'Challa met this team, and when he met them, he knew something wasn't right. And it's possible like before this entire world had changed, he may have told a few of the other Avengers. But either way, Banner knew where to look for Hyperion, and that's where Hyperion found him here. But with him going up against the Hulk and effectively making him angrier, that of course then makes the Hulk stronger. And when this happens, like some of the Hulk's sentences start to straighten out, and not all of them, just some of them, because he then starts to tell Hyperion that he knows this world is wrong, Hulk's friends are missing, and he asks where's Earth's mightiest heroes. But with Hyperion starting to struggle, knowing that the Hulk is getting stronger, he's then forced to invoke an executive order, SSA 1939, which I believe was just President Coulson's way of making Hyperion like be able to be judge, jury, and executioner in the field. But with him invoking this executive order, he then goes execution style on the Hulk, who in this world is also immortal, so when he zaps him into radioactive goo, he just scoops him up, drops him off in the negative zone, so that next time he's resurrected, it'll be over there. But also with this being the immortal Hulk, and Savage Hulk likely at that. But we also know that in this world, Hyperion has likely already killed him, but the Hulk has been sent to the negative zone before, and it's possible that with the Hulk's resurrection, in this alternate world, that somewhere in there that could be the cause in the mix-up of his words, or Mephisto or whoever just added that in to have fun with the big guy. But in the Hulk's last words, Hyperion hears him say, "Where's Steve?" And after this, we go over to Hyperion's class the next day, and they got the wall re-bricked already, which is quick. Wouldn't have been my school, our class would have been outside in the trailer or something. But then it's here where Hyperion is looking at Margaret Carroll's paper again with the mystery of Steve Rogers. But then also on his desk, he has the front page paper from the Bugle that says, "Parker's luck strikes again. Bugle's Peter Parker, temporarily transformed into a giant spider from alien bite, falls and breaks his own legs. All 8. And with more or less looking back and forth at the two, Hyperion tells the students just to read quietly, and after that he goes to do a bit of investigating on his own. And when he's done, he goes into the sun to kind of go over his thoughts, because for some time now he's had the suspicion that this world has been built from lies. But before this, with looking into it, first he went to the Pentagon and he dug up old records, much like we saw Blade do. But with looking into it, he saw that there was an attempt to find Captain America back when he disappeared, but they never did. But after that, Hyperion then looked over the location where Captain America's body was supposed to be, only to find that something was recently removed from the ice. And with doing this, he considers to bring in Nighthawk to help him make sense of it all, which is where he then goes into the sun to clear his head. And when he does this, he comes to his resolve, which for him is Captain America is long dead, and Hyperion is the Super Sentinel of Liberty. And this world is the truth of all truths. But also, if there's even a possibility that this world is a lie, then he'll do everything in his power to keep it the way it is. And it's pretty crazy because it's a conscious decision. And it would be different if he just didn't know at all or didn't have any suspicions of this world not being the way that it's supposed to be. But at this point, he likes how it is. He likes who he is in this world. And I mean, who wouldn't? Because the dude is crazy OP. But he's made up in his mind that he's not gonna let things change without a fight. But after this, we then go back to his class and he's given a lesson on World War II. But while he's giving this lesson, he notices something outside, so he goes to check it out. But before he gets out there, there's like a whoosh, and all he sees is this homeless guy by himself right outside the classroom window. And we know right away, like, that's Steve Rogers. But when Hyperion sees him, he just sees this guy sitting outside of the classroom window looking suspect. So Hyperion asks him, like, can I help you with something? And Steve tells him he was just listening to that history teacher's lesson, seeing if he can pick up a few things that he missed. So then Hyperion's like, do you have any children that attend this school? And he tells Hyperion, like, nope, didn't get the chance to have kids. Guess that was taken from me too. But with Hyperion not knowing who this is, he tells him he's gotta go, and if he's interested in learning more on history, he'll point him out to a community college or something. But also when Hyperion tries to use his atomic vision to scan him, it keeps shorting out, which is interesting. But since Hyperion can't just scan him to figure out who it is, he asks him, like, do I know you? And Steve just tells him nope, he's just the old vet that the world forgot about, who woke up and realized that he had forgot something important. And when Hyperion asks him, like, what that is, Steve just tells him the truth. And when he goes to shake Hyperion's hand, it hurts him, and he actually feels himself getting weaker around this stranger. And it's really interesting because there's definitely something happening under the surface here. But with Hyperion noticing, he tells him, like, look man, you're gonna have to come with me. And just like that, another whoosh comes through. But this time when it happens, we see that it was Blade who was whooshing back and forth. And he whooshes Steve away just before Hyperion can take him. And at this point we find out, like, when Blade initially took Steve out of the ice, he initially came out swinging because he woke up to a vampire hanging over him. But then after talking to Blade let him know, like, I'm gonna show you the world, and from there you can tell me if you think that any of this seems right. And Steve lets him know, like, nothing seems right, like even the world that he missed after he'd been under the ice. So he knows that whatever this is, it needs to be fixed. And even though Blade tells him, like, he wants to sit Cap down and explain everything, but then Steve is like, no, show me, because from here they got work to do. But before we even get into all that, like, I need to know what's going on with Captain America and how did he drain Hyperion's powers? Or if not drain, like, how did he make him weaker when he's closer to him? Like, that would be an interesting thing to know. Like, let me find out Captain America's been practicing up close magic in the past couple days to where he's become the up close Sorcerer Supreme. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below so you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.